Funds. How many of us have them? Funds. Ones you can depend on. Get those funds. Welcome to the Balance Your Books podcast. I'm Kimberly.
I'm Keena.
And I'm April.
And we're your balanced partners. Woo woo.
Tell the people what about us and what we do.
So yes, like, subscribe, and share. We hope you enjoy our podcast. And if you have any questions you want to connect with us, please go to yourbalancepartners.com.
All right. Today, our topic, all accountants
ain't accountants. I know you want to say aren't.
They aren't.
But they ain't
and
either.
They ain't either. They're both. They aren't and they ain't. We are about to unlock the mystery. And I know we're going to get a lot of snaps from our accountant friends out there who amongst in our circles, we talk about it.
Yes.
But we need to share this with the people. You think you're hiring one thing, you may be hiring something else. So we want to make sure you understand the difference, because everyone who says they're an accountant ain't an accountant. Mm-hmm. So they may not be. They may not be.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk. Let's get into it. How would you? A lot of times when we run into small business and we talk to them and we may have an initial meeting with them, they may say, "I need a bookkeeper."
Right.
Mm-hmm. They're like, "I really just need a bookkeeper."
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly, what's a bookkeeper versus an accountant?
A bookkeeper is someone who keeps the books. Basically,
what does that mean?
A bookkeeper is someone who, when the money is coming in, they may record it. When the money is going out, they may record it. Mm-hmm. And they make sure the money that's coming in and the money that's going out is recorded. Mm-hmm. How that's recorded, but it is recorded.
Yeah.
So bookkeepers are more data managers. Mm-hmm. As opposed to accountants who study how the money is supposed to be recorded. They make sure your money gets into your financial statements in accordance with GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles in the United States. So the difference between a bookkeeper will be the bookkeeper makes sure that everything's recorded. The accountant will make sure that it's categorized properly.
Mm-hmm.
It's recorded properly. It's categorized properly, that you can build sound financial statements with that information. And there is a difference between the two.
Right. Because one is education,
yes.
Right? And so, April, tell a little bit about maybe the education that someone who is a bookkeeper may have had. I mean, we're generalizing a little bit, but that a bookkeeper tends to the knowledge that they gather in order to become a bookkeeper versus the knowledge that someone gathers in order to become an accountant.
Well, I mean, it's very clear. A bookkeeper can take a couple of exams or tutorials through QuickBooks and call themselves a bookkeeper. I mean, there is no per se educational standard as it relates to bookkeepers. But I've quite honestly run across some excellent bookkeepers.
We have some on our staff.
There are some people who really know what they're doing out there. And then there are others that don't necessarily. But still, at the end of the day, there's the education difference. There's the person who has the accounting degree and also the work behind it. Because let's be honest and let's be clear. An accounting degree does not mean that you know what you're doing.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
You get that through work experience, okay?
Yes, it's work experience.
And so the combination of the two is what can make someone a great accountant as well as an excellent CPA.
So there's bookkeeper, there's accountant, and then there's CPA.
Yeah.
So then say from accountant to CPA, tell everybody the difference there.
Okay. Well, what I can tell you is that I went from 20/20 vision to whatever my vision is now, studying for that CPA exam. Okay.
Yes. That's why we all wear glasses. You notice a lot of accountants wear glasses.
Yes.
If no one's ever noticed that, it's always the green visor and glasses. Isn't that what they always have?
Not that stereotype. But
And so, I mean, the amount of work and effort it takes to pass that exam and the knowledge required. As my professor always told me, you are only a bookkeeper if you're not a CPA. If you don't get that CPA license, you just a bookkeeper. And, that's fine. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But what he was trying to emphasize is that once you pass that exam, you're at a whole nother level.
Yes.
And there's a different expectation that people will have of you and that you should even have of yourself.
I remember after I graduated, and, I was CPA certified, but when people say, what do? I'm an accountant. Are you a CPA? That would be the question that people would ask me. It's like, I'm an accountant. I'm not going to respect you until you tell me if you're a CPA. So it's that next level. It requires more education. It requires taking a test to get your certificate. It requires getting experience under a certified public accountant. And there's continuing education to maintain that certification.
Absolutely.
Every year.
Yes.
Every year we have to do continuing education. In a previous podcast, we talked about how we have to do ethics is a part of that. We also have to have a certain amount that is related specifically to accounting.
Yes.
And technical accounting, and make sure we understand, new because it's constantly changing. The rules are constantly changing around how things should be accounted for in that generally accepted accounting principles. So there's a lot of education we're required to continuously get. So it is a lifelong learning to be a CPA. And two, any students out there who may be listening to this, if you're thinking if it's worth it, it's worth it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There's not a lot of people. I was just reading on LinkedIn about how there's not a lot of accountants anymore. And so how a lot of the big firms, the EYs, the Deloittes, the KPMGs, how they're starting to increase the amount that they're paying. So dollar bills, because there are not a lot of people who are going into that, into our profession. And so it makes the profession more valuable because you always need accountants.
Yes.
And bookkeeping, it's just like you said, experience. But Keena, weren't you like a bookkeeper at 10 years old? Not to get look, you
going in on bookkeepers.
No, but what I'm saying is,
yes.
I recently found out, as long as I've known her, that
she found out I got my first 10 key when I was about 8. So my father, owned, right? Who knew? I mean, who knew I was it was implanted? But my father owned a Standard Oil. So if you know what Standard Oil is, you definitely were born in 60s, 70s. Yeah, knees hurt, right? But even if you know what Amoco is, actually, because Standard Oil was before Amoco. But anyway, so he owned a franchise in Kansas City, where I'm from. At one point, he even had 2 locations. And so he would bring home the money every night. And I was the one who got everything prepared for the deposit, because we deposited all the money, as far as I know. Look, I don't know. I didn't know about controls at the time, but I'm assuming, So, but I had this little grease. To this day, I remember that grease. I had this grease, and I would put it on my fingers, and he would bring in the money. And I would be like, count up. And then I put the little paper around my 20s and my 10s, my 5s, my 1s. And then I put my change in the little wrappers. And I put the quarters and the nickels and the dimes and pennies. And I would put it on. I'd have a sheet where I'd put the deposit slip. We had these things, kiddos, called paper deposit slips.
Yes.
And so we put it on the deposit slip, and then we put it in the little bag, and it was a zipped bag that you always would put all of your deposits in. And I would prepare it every night for my dad to do his deposits the next day to the bank. And I had a 10 key. So I would, of course,
10 key.
I would be, what a 10 key is. Okay, that's an adding machine. It is
It's big.
It's big. It has a paper roll on it.
Yes.
Well, back in the day, it had a paper roll on it.
And it's made so you don't have to look at it.
So you don't have to look. Right. So I learned how to do that. Because it used to be a skill. Now I'm really going back in time. People used to learn typing, and you could also learn adding machine. Like that was like two skills that you could learn. And when we were starting out at KPMG, they would like give you like tests to see if you could basically get your adding machine skills up and be able to look and add. You don't remember that?
No, I think I came in after that.
Okay, wait. Time out. She came in next year, y'all.
Yeah,
it was a year
but
apart.
still, I didn't have an adding machine.
You did?
No, I mean, we all had 10 keys.
That's what she means, adding machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They never had you add up the phone book?
Yeah, you didn't
No.
have to.
As practice?
We didn't have you do foot exercises?
I did not go through, what's that
We didn't
called?
haze
That
it.
hazing.
Oh.
I didn't go through that.
Wow,
Okay,
why
anyway.
we didn't properly haze?
We didn't
No.
properly hate. That's why she hated her job and she
Right.
quit after 3 years. We didn't haze her
3
into
years
it
is a
properly.
long time. But
Yeah.
let's be clear. I stayed the 3 years to make sure I got my CPA.
Yes.
Because in order to become back to that,
Yeah.
let's just make it full circle. It's not only passing the exam, but it is also a number of years of experience. And
Yes.
so when you work in public accounting, when we came out, it was 3 years.
Two.
2 years.
It was
I'm
two.
sorry. So I stayed an extra year.
Yeah.
No. There's the year that it took for you to pass the exam, and then you stayed the.
What?
No.
I passed the exam after I left.
Oh.
Yes,
yeah.
because I made sure I got my years in.
Okay. Yes.
And
So
then
that you
I
could go
quit,
back.
And then after I quit, I studied for the CPA, and that's
Yep.
when I passed my first 2, and then 1 and 1, or
Okay,
2 and 1,
okay,
however
yeah,
that
2-1-1.
works.
2-1-1. That's how I
But,
did it.
okay, that was public accounting, 2 years. I stayed an extra 3 to make sure, probably,
Okay,
because it's
yeah.
an hours
Just to-
thing as
just to get
well.
the cushion.
It's
Yeah.
years and hours.
Okay.
When you go into industry, so if you go to work for Coke or any kind of major corporation company, then it's 5 years.
Is it?
Okay.
It was 5.
Because the
State of
amount of
Georgia.
experience you get.
State of Georgia.
Oh, really?
That's what she just
Not
said.
Well,
in
I'm just
North
saying,
I don't know.
Carolina?
I don't know. I
know.
never even looked it up because.
Oh,
Because you
okay.
were in public, so you didn't
Yeah.
worry about it.
Yeah. So the amount of experience you get, which is key,
Yep.
at a big 4 firm now, was much more intense than and you got a lot more exposure
Yes.
than if you went to just work as a fixed asset accountant or a payroll
Yes.
accountant or what have you
Right.
at a major corporation.
So for small businesses, let's share some stories of clients that had bookkeepers that they thought were
Yeah.
accountants.
Yeah. We have had several clients come to us and they said, well, I had a bookkeeper or I had an accountant, and we get their books. And it is I mean, we are talking that and I feel for them. I feel for the small business owner because they paid money for
Yes.
people to do this. Their accounts are not reconciled. There's it's called the general ledger. The general ledger is where all of your transactions are recorded. Your general ledger typically is in an accounting system. A lot of small businesses use, QuickBooks. They got to pay us money if we start calling them out.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of different ones.
There's some
There's a lot of
cloud-based
different-
tools.
There's a lot of different tools that a lot of small businesses use, and there's certain controls and steps that you need to do in them in order to make sure that your general ledger is correct. So they, we'll get this, and it is a mess. It is a mess. And so we end up having to charge them to clean up their books.
A different way to look at the cleanup woman.
We are the clean.
yes.
A clean up woman. Totally
The karaoke crew.
And that is, I've had an account where we had to spend, I had a client where we had to spend over 2 months just cleaning up the books because they had a lot of transactions. They were a good sized company. The type of work they did required a lot of transactions. We had to rebuild from scratch because it made no sense. Nothing was accounted for in the right, because everything's supposed to be accounted for in certain types of accounts. And it's required by generally accepted accounting principles.
Those chart of accounts.
Yes, it's called a chart of accounts. And so you have to have that set up based on your business. So you have a chart of accounts set up based on what your business is. So like if you sell cookies, you know, you may have accounts where you are buying raw ingredients to make them. You may have, you know, your rent for your storefront. So there's certain accounts that we make sure that you have, and then we track things in those accounts, and that's what you're required to have things tracked in a certain way. And then you should have a balance sheet that comes out, which shows the status of your company, like the health of your company. It's like your blood pressure. The balance sheet's like your blood pressure and, you know, and your cholesterol and all of that. It's making sure any given day, what are your vitals for your business? That's the vitals for your business. Then you have your profit and loss statement or income statement. You may hear people call it one or the other. And that's the other piece that needs to be created. Not all bookkeepers know how to create a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. That's part of what we've learned as accountants is how to properly set that up, how to properly account for it. And we get training on when the rules around how those things should be done are changing. We get training, and that's why we go back to get the continuous training to be able to then adjust your financials as necessary.
And why is it important to have good, solid financials?
Well, let me give an example, and then I know April has some. When you have a CPA, particularly a CPA, that does your financials, and think about you're a small business, and you want to grow. We want you to grow. So you may want to have a bank give you a loan. You may have investors that are interested in your business. What we do is we give credibility to your financial statements. When we go in and we've done the preparation and we hand them over to an investor or a bank, they're like, oh, you've got like, what you said, person said, are you an accountant or a CPA?
Yes, you got a CPA.
You got you got a CPA who did your books. Because for us, because we are licensed, if we go out there and put false statements out, we could lose our license.
Yes.
Right? So that's why we take it very seriously around your financials, because we don't want to lose our license. That's our livelihood. So it's what I like to make the equivalence to, because people understand this better, is that you don't go to the nurse practitioner for heart surgery, right? You go to the heart surgeon. So in this case, you want to make sure that if you're in a situation where you are trying to grow your business, get investments, going to the bank to get loans, you want the heart surgeon. You want the one who's studied it and do all that. You want them to get your arteries clean. Right? Nothing wrong with a nurse practitioner. They have a role. They go in, they may check your vitals, they may set those things up. But you want the specialist. And so CPA, we're the specialist.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, if you even think about it, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about attorneys. Do you want to represent yourself?
Right.
Or do you want an attorney?
If you're on a murder trial,
right.
You want a criminal attorney, criminal law attorney,
or your cousin. You got some decisions to make. But also having your books in order is great for taxes. Making sure everything is aligned makes it a lot easier for the tax preparer. And having the knowledge as a CPA is key, because I have an example that just came up the other day. Okay. A client reached out, needs some tax help, maybe some accounting help. So I said, okay, well, send me your prior year tax return. How about they sent me a blank form?
Wait, what?
Yes. Okay,
so that was a mistake.
Let me tell you
they
something.
Just hit the wrong attachment.
No. That's not what happened. What happened was they found a company. They're not CPAs. I guess there's companies out there that do tax returns.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
A lot
Everybody
of companies.
hangs a shingle.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even like, it didn't have a tax preparer name.
It wasn't like the big ones.
It seemed like I don't know what they do. Okay. But apparently they do tax returns.
Okay.
I didn't ask him how much he paid yet. Okay. But I see the company's letterhead. I see a 990 form blank.
And they submitted that to the IRS?
Yeah.
So they just suckered them.
I'm wondering how much they paid for that. Because if
Wow.
you don't generate $50,000 or more in contributions.
Right.
as
This
it
is a
relates to
nonprofit.
your
This is a nonprofit.
Yes. A full 990 required.
Right. You can do a 990 easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you don't make any money, you probably could do a postcard. There's a 990 in. Okay.
But who knows that info?
A CPA.
Right.
Clearly, that's not who they were working with. So I'm going to get them on track.
Okay.
But I was just shocked.
Yeah. People will sucker
I couldn't
you.
believe it.
The bastardization of our profession
Yes.
is a huge problem. I mean, I got to give it to lawyers because they've been good at locking down their stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
But they've had a little bit better track record at the gravitas to their profession. But we did just as much.
Yeah, we do just as much, if not more. We can work alongside them.
Yeah.
But, I think that the value of our services aren't there as they should be.
Well,
because
the
we're
perceived value.
Yeah, the perceived value.
Yes.
Because in their minds, they may not be going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, with an attorney's keeping you out of jail, maybe keeping you from paying alimony or, whatever you suing about or being sued about.
Right.
And so there's, I think, more value placed on that. But if people really understood that if you had your books right and you had your CPA behind you, that could keep you out of a lot of trouble.
It could keep you out of needing the attorney.
Right. It can keep you out of needing the attorney.
who are a lot more expensive.
Right. And it can keep you out of jail.
We keep you out of jail.
Absolutely.
Because if that tax liability builds up, or if they find out that
man a coming,
if they find out that the information that you're putting out there is false, and you've been doing that repeatedly, and people are relying on that information, that financial information, you can go to jail. And so I think it's the perceived value. Some companies are willing to pay attorneys $500, $600 an hour.
Exactly.
right?
And then feel like they should pay their bookkeeper $50 an hour.
Exactly.
Or whatever. And you got this attorney will charge you for a quarter of an hour.
They will charge you every 15 minutes.
Yep.
And so it's the perceived value, because we do add a huge value. Not only in that we can keep you out of jail, we can help you prepare financial statements that you can take to an investor to grow. But a lot of what we do can help you avoid needing an attorney.
Exactly.
And I mean, not just investors. Let's just talk about just a basic line of credit.
Yes.
Or a loan. You
Yes.
know, people don't want to give money to people who need it.
Or who don't manage it well, who clearly,
Right.
because when you go to a bank and your stuff looks like crap, the banker can sniff that out quick. They're like, you don't even have real financial statements. Like, because a lot of accountants work in banks. So it's like, so they're looking at like, this is a mess, so you think that it looks okay because you're not in the profession, but those who are in the profession, it doesn't take them long to sniff out something that doesn't look legit. And the other piece that a lot of small business owners miss is these financials are also for you. When you know your numbers, and an accountant can help you know your numbers. And then you know what kind of business decisions to make on a daily basis when you know your numbers. And so the main thing we would always, I've run into all these people and they're like, well, I need to get my financials together for taxes.
You need to get your financials together
for you.
For you.
Yes.
You need it first, right? You should be the top to say, I need it first so I can run my business and know my numbers. Then I need it maybe for the bank to get a line of credit so then I can grow my business. Then it's taxes. Like taxes is a byproduct. That should not be the reason that you get an accountant.
Yeah.
That should be the byproduct of why you got an accountant.
Preach, Keena.
Yeah. Because I've seen it so much and I've seen how it destroys your business. And I've seen the businesses who actually got serious about it. Like we have an accountant, a situation, one of our clients that initially they kind of thought about it more for taxes. Then they finally like, okay, we're going to really hire you to do our books every month. We're going to have a monthly finance meeting. We're going to highlight things. We're going to follow our cash every week. We're going to have a budget for the year, so targets we're trying to hit. This company went from having a loss over multiple years to having profit last year. All because the focus they put on understanding their financials on a daily basis. They went from loss to profit. It wasn't just because the market changed or their product changed it was strictly because they managed their money better. And that's why that should be the top reason why you get a real accountant and stop playing, put it in your budget because you're going to have to pay for it. We're not cheap. We're not going to do it for $20. Right? We're not. We spent a lot of years doing a lot of education, a lot of years, and it costs us still to this day to do it. We still pay. Yes. We have to pay for our education every year. And so you're gonna pay for it.
And the years of experience.
Yeah. So it's like you're gonna pay for it, but it's worth it.
Had 75 years total.
Oh God.
That's roll.
Yeah, but yeah, true.
But you're gonna have to pay for it. Either you're gonna have to pay us to get you together on the front end, or you're gonna have to pay for it on the back end.
That's right.
So,
like you said, what happens in the dark
comes to the light.
Always comes to the light. And so, and don't think that you can't afford it. A lot of, I know our firm, YBP, but other smaller firms, you're going to Big Four, you're going to really pay. Yeah. So the EYs, the Deloittes, the KPMGs, your business isn't on that level. The PwC, sorry, I keep forgetting PwC.
Yes.
But yeah, so, you're not, those levels, or even the Bennett Thrashers and the,
Grant
the
Thornton's,
Wyndham Grant,
BDO,
Grant Thornton's, right? You may not be ready for that, but as a small business owner, there are organizations like us, like YBP. There's other ones as well. Some of our friends as well, because sometimes we share clients amongst, because, just our capacity, who can charge you a reasonable rate, and they can do it by the hour, and they can teach you how to do some things yourself so that you can stay on top of it and stay within your budget. But go out and get quality. Go and ask them to. Is there other people you can talk to that have worked with you that that can validate? The accountant world around the CPA world especially is small. There, I don't know. There's might be 60,000, 70. It's not a lot in the whole country.
It's not
right.
It's not.
And so. Especially practicing, right? And so a lot of us, especially within the state or the city, know each other.
Yes.
Or know the person who knows the person who knows the person. So they're, so you can find out about them. You can also check on at the state website to make sure you can look up their names to look, are they really registered in the state they said they're registered? Are they active? Yes. Have there been any complaints against them? So you can do some due diligence with the state, whatever state you're in. To make sure that they are legit and make sure that you're getting the right type of support. And then if that one isn't supporting you right, let them go and get someone else. But make sure that you're investing in you. This is an investment in you and your company.
And I just want to reiterate, there are some excellent bookkeepers out there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They're part of our
use
team.
Them. We have some on our team. But there's
they're guided,
a certain standard that you get when you hire an accountant, and an even higher standard when you get a CPA.
Oh, we didn't kind of talk. There's different kinds. The kind that prepare financial statements, the kind that do taxes. This is specialties, right? So you've got just like to go back to the medical, because we all go to the doctor. You've got your gynecologist, you've got your primary care physician,
You got your
you got your
pediatricians.
dentist, you got your pediatrician. They're all different, right? But they all went to medical school and they all got a doctor. Right?
They
They all do totally different things. It's the same thing as CPAs. We just don't have CPAD, CPAE. They probably should think about doing something like that. But anyway, so you have some that are CPAs that do taxes. There are some that are CPAs that do work for publicly traded companies, which is a lot of what Kimberly has done in the past. There are CPAs who do things that are more systems and analytics related. Then there's some that do financial statement preparation, which is a lot of what we do. There's some that do audits, which a lot of what April has done in the past. So that's what makes us a good combo. We've done a little bit of all of it. But you want to make sure that you understand when you're asking CPA, so what's your specialty?
Yes.
Make sure you ask them, what is your particular specialty, so that you're hiring them for the right thing. So a lot of our clients, they may have YBP, who does their financial statement preparation, and then our sister firm, PJC Group, that does the tax side, may do their taxes, because we have people who are CPAs over there who specialize in taxes.
And if they need an audit, we can help with that too.
Yes.
Exactly. And so we tend, if you got the right people who are managing your financial statements and they're ethical, then they're going to say, hey, this is what I know how to do. Let me hook you up on this side with the other, let me get you your gynecologist for your pap smear.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
So you got to go there for the pap and then here for the primary care.
Yes.
Okay. So, or whatever guys get. I don't know what they go to. But anyway, so just keeping that in mind. All right. So closing out this particular episode, it's time for Shooting the All right. Our topic for today, it's almost spring. Like we need it to be spring.
Yeah, we don't need a season.
But we recently celebrated National Margarita Day.
Yeah,
That's right. That's in Feb.
So
Yes.
what is the perfect margarita?
I think it depends on your tastes. There have been plenty of times, and one of my friends laugh at me when we go and I'll say, I'll get a margarita. Let me get a margarita. I want a fresh margarita because I don't want all that mix.
No,
all those extra
sour
calories.
mix.
No.
And so I'll taste it and I'll be like, it's a little too sweet for my taste. And she laughs. So if I don't say that, you know it's a good margarita.
Okay.
There are a lot of things to consider, like what type of tequila.
Yes.
Blanco, Añejo, Reposado. There are things to consider. But for me, the perfect margarita is tequila,
Blanco? Or
Blanco, because I don't like to
Why
mix
spend?
the other ones.
Why
Yeah,
spend?
why spend more money? The other ones are for sipping.
Yeah.
So it's Blanco tequila, a good tequila, not cheap tequila. A little sweetened lime juice, and top it off with a little Grand Marnier. Mix
How
that
you
up.
get your
A
lime
tinge
juice
of agave?
sweetened?
No, you don't put
No,
little
because
bit of agave?
What's
so
the
when
sweetened lime?
I'm talking about the kind in the bottle, the sweet
Yeah,
lime
sweet
juice.
lime. Yeah.
But even if I use just fresh squeezed lime juice, the Grand Marnier has the sweetener.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, Grand
don't put a
Marnier.
I was
little-
wondering
no
if you
little-
put a agave,
Yeah,
a little
bit of
agave in
I
it.
might. It just depends on.
Okay.
Because
She's straight no chaser.
I might.
Not even a little agave.
I might.
It's a squeeze.
I might just a little to add a little taste,
Yeah.
but for me, the tequila and Grand Marnier,
Yeah.
gives you enough sweetness. And if you have a good tequila, it's already kind of sweet because it's made from agave.
Yeah, it is.
So for
It
me, that is the perfect margarita.
Okay. What about you, Keena? What's your
I mean, it's not
margarita?
too often. I just put a little squeeze
sweeter.
of agave.
Okay,
Of
okay.
just to add a little bit more. And
What
on
about
the
a rim?
rocks.
Yes,
On the rocks.
Never frozen. I don't
Yeah.
do frozen.
Okay.
Frozen. I mean, yeah, it's
I'll
called
do
water it
frozen
down.
on the beach.
yeah.
If it's hot, we on the beach. I might do frozen.
Yeah.
But
And then
what about a rim?
for me, tahini. Tahini over salt. Or sugar. It's
Yeah.
got to be some tahini.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Ooh,
It's
I
just
love
it's got the
tahini.
light tinge, like the right spice. That's it. For
what
me.
is your perfect margarita, April?
Probably any margarita with tahini.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you good with the mix and all that, yeah.
I'm good with. I'm not real. I'm not really an alcoholic.
Oh, wait. Are you saying that?
My level of like being able to handle tequila and Grand Marnier
Your
on
tolerance
this
level.
Yeah. That's not a good night for me.
Well,
Okay.
keep in mind, you only need to have one.
Yeah.
You don't have to have more than one.
Yes.
So, but I love tahini. I'm a salt girl. You know, that salt, I think, adds a little more flavor.
Yes.
I'm frozen or on the rocks.
Okay.
You know.
So just a margarita.
Yes. Any margarita almost will do.
All right.
Well, okay.
There's nothing else to add.
There's nothing else to add. Well,
Except for share with your friends.
Like
Oh, yeah.
like it, subscribe, share, and join us at yourbalancedpartners.com.